Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of information, could be articles, research, your notes, and we pull out the really important bits, the key knowledge and insights. Basically, we're here to give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. We try to find surprising facts, maybe add just enough humor to keep things interesting. So today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating. Well, a very unique way to look at language learning. We've got some material here that focuses less on what you learn and much more on how you learn, particularly for beginners.
That's exactly right, yeah. Our mission really for this deep dive is to figure out how this specific content offers a really gentle but still effective path for beginners learning English. It does this by using these very relatable, everyday kind of experiences, and we'll also be digging into some key vocabulary insights that make seemingly complex words feel surprisingly simple. What's really interesting, I think, is how it demonstrates that learning doesn't always have to feel like, a chore. It can actually be as straightforward as just listening to a friend chat.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that a bit. So we're looking at a specific style of English learning content. You said it emphasizes a calm, slow approach. Tell us a bit more about this format. What makes it special?
Absolutely. So what we're examining here is a segment from a channel called the English Sleep Podcast. Apparently, it's part of a larger thing called Speak English with Claws.
Mm-hmm.
And it positions itself as, a place to learn English, but also sort of grow through life, which is an interesting angle. Now, normally, they have hosts named Aaron and Evan doing episodes on Mondays and Wednesdays. But the weekends, Saturday and Sunday specifically, the content shifts. There's a different host, Crystal, and she takes a really distinct approach.
Okay. So the weekend sessions have a different feel. What does that actually mean for the learner? What's different?
Exactly. Crystal spells it out quite clearly. She says her weekend sessions are all about relaxing, slowing down, and learning English in the softest, gentlest way.
Okay.
She explicitly says no pressure, no grammar rules. It's just her sharing, and this is a quote, a little piece of my day in slow English. She even describes it as quiet, cozy talks like a friend speaking to you. So the whole idea is to create this super low-stress environment. The main activity is just listening, letting it sink in.
I really like that idea, learning without that constant pressure, So what piece of her day did we actually get to experience in the material we looked at?
Well, we got a very relatable day in my life story from Crystal Saturday. And it starts off incredibly casually. She mentions right away that she didn't wake up early. She stayed in bed until almost 9 a.m., which, as she points out, is a big contrast to her usual 7 a.m. weekday start. That immediately sets a very, very relaxed tone.
Mm-hmm. And was there a specific reason for this gentle start or just, a lazy Saturday feeling?
There was an immediate reason, actually. She had a wisdom tooth that was hurting.
Yeah.
That big tooth we get to the very back of our mouth. She explains it usually grows in our 20s and, it can definitely cause problems. She describes the pain, too, not like agony, not crying pain, but, quote, annoying enough to ruin my peace. So that sets up this small but very understandable challenge for her day.
Oh, yeah, the wisdom tooth saga. I think almost everyone can relate to that kind of nagging pain. So how did the rest of her morning go with this sort of background discomfort?
She shares her slow morning routine. After finally rolling out of bed, she mentions feeling foggy. And right here, this is where the content gives us that first really great insight for English learners. Crystal actually pauses her story to explain the word foggy. She says it's a soft way to describe when things feel unclear or blurry. And she connects it brilliantly to physical fog, that white mist you see outside. She emphasizes that when your mind feels foggy, your thoughts are slow, maybe still waking up. It's just a perfect example of explaining not just the definition, but the feeling, the nuance of the word.
That's a fantastic connection, making foggy so tangible. So what did she do then to try and shake off that mental mist?
Well, very practical things. She brushed her teeth, but gently, because of the tooth pain, washed her face with cold water, that classic wake-up trick. She also mentions, kind of incidentally, that sometimes she waits to shower until after appointments. Just a little relatable detail. Then comfort was key. Big T-shirt, cozy pants, and then straight to the kitchen for, the first priority, tea.
Tea. Always a good priority. And I think I remember reading there's another great vocabulary moment tied to her tea making.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really good for learning. She made a big cup of ginger tea, and she stood by the window while it steeped. And again, she pauses. She stops the story to define steep for the listener. She explains it means to let something sit in hot water so it can slowly release its flavor. And then she gives this fantastic analogy. A tea bag taking a warm bath. It's so visual, so easy to remember, right? And while her tea was steeping, she just watched the world outside. Noticed how peaceful it seemed. It saw a cat, birds, a man watering plants. It really reinforces that slow, observant mood.
Yeah, that image of the world kind of taking a break with her is lovely. What about breakfast? That must have been tricky with the wisdom tooth issue.
Exactly. She mentioned she had to keep things really soft. So, no crunchy cereal, nothing hard. She made warm oatmeal. Simple stuff. Oats, milk, a little honey, and then added just a few soft banana slices on top. She makes a point of saying it wasn't fancy, but it felt gentle and comforting, and she ate slowly. No phone, she says, just enjoying the lovely weekend silence.
A very mindful breakfast, perfect for the day she was having. Okay, so then came the reason for all this gentleness, the dentist appointment.
Yes, that was scheduled for 11:30 a.m. And the clinic, conveniently, was only about a 15-minute walk away. So around 11:03, she tells us she grabbed her bag, tied her hair back, put on some casual clothes again, comfort first, a loose hoodie and jeans. She even describes weather as being soft, not too sunny, not too cold, just pleasant.
Did she run into anyone on her walk? Or notice anything else? Maybe another language tip.
She did pass a little grocery shop, one where she usually buys fruit and veg. She waved to the man there, the one who apparently always gives her the ripest bananas. Nice little detail. And yes, another really useful pronunciation tip comes up here. She talks about the word vegetables. She explains how it can look tricky, and learners might pronounce every syllable slowly. Vegetables. And she points out that in natural spoken English, it's often faster, smoother, more like three sounds. Vegetables. It's a brilliant example of bridging the gap between spelling and actual everyday pronunciation.
That's super practical. Definitely something learners struggle with. Okay, so she gets to the dentist. How did that go? Any nerves?
Oh, yeah. She mentions reaching the clinic a bit early and feeling that nervous energy in her stomach, that little knot of fear we all get before a dentist visit. The waiting room was quiet. She went in when the nurse called her name, and the dentist checked her tooth, confirmed it was indeed pushing through, and that there was a little inflammation.
Inflammation. Okay, that's a common medical word, but maybe not one a beginner knows. Was that explained in her usual gentle style?
Yes, absolutely. Consistent approach. The narrative pauses again. Inflammation, she explains, basically means swelling. It's when a part of your body gets red, sore, or puffy. And she gives examples like irritated gums or even a sore throat to make it concrete. So it connects the word to a physical feeling the listener might recognize. The good news for her, it was nothing serious. Just needed rest, soft food, warm saltwater rinses, phew, no surgery. And Crystal describes that feeling perfectly, relief. When something's not perfect, but at least it's not scary.
That is the best kind of relief, isn't it? Okay, so dentist visit done, nothing scary confirmed. How did her relaxed Saturday proceed after that?
Well, she definitely kept up the slow pace. On the walk home, she wasn't rushing. She let that relief kind of wash over her. She actually stopped at a park, sat down on a bench for a bit, just watched kids playing with paper airplanes, a woman chatting with her dog. She just sat there, sipped some water, and describes letting the quiet wrap around her like a blanket. Such a nice image.
Wow, that sounds incredibly peaceful, just taking a moment.
It really does. So when she finally got home, she took a quick warm shower, got comfortable again in her favorite old t-shirt, then curled up on the couch with a blanket, and, naturally, made another cup of tea. This time, chamomile.
Ah, chamomile. Knowing her style, I bet chamomile got its own little explanation, too, maybe pronunciation.
You are spot on. Yes, she points out that chamomile actually has two common correct pronunciations. She can say chamomile or chamomile, which is helpful, right? Gives options. And she describes it simply as a soft, calming tea, good for relaxing. And she just lay there, looking at the ceiling. Her words, not thinking, not planning, just being, really embracing that quiet moment.
Sounds like she might have even nodded off. I think there was a phrase for that, too.
Exactly. She realized she had actually fallen asleep for about 30 minutes. She drifted off. And then, of course, she explains that phrase. Drifted off means to fall asleep slowly and gently. She uses the image of a boat drifting away on calm water, describes it as soft, unplanned, something you barely notice happening. And when she woke up, she felt calmer, lighter, quote, like the day had pressed a reset button. It's just a perfect, gentle description for a little nap.
Okay, so we followed her through this whole gentle Saturday. Pulling it all together, what's the big takeaway here for someone trying to learn English? What does this method really offer?
Well, this deep dive really showcases a highly effective method, especially for beginners or maybe learners who feel a bit anxious. By weaving these vocabulary explanations, words like foggy, steep, inflammation, drifted off, and even pronunciation tips like vegetables, directly into this slow, very relatable story, It makes these words incredibly memorable. You understand them through context, through these simple, vivid analogies she uses. The focus clearly isn't on drilling grammar rules or memorizing lists. It's about active, but gentle, listening. It lets the learner absorb the language much more naturally. Bit by bit, word by word, moment by moment, as Crystal herself puts it. It really champions patience and consistency, doesn't it? Over trying to learn everything super fast and maybe getting overwhelmed. It shows how consistent, low-pressure listening can build understanding.
It really is a wonderful approach. It makes learning English feel less like sitting in a classroom and much more like just having a cozy chat with a friend. It powerfully highlights how these everyday stories, these simple narratives, can be such effective tools for absorbing new language. Makes it feel natural, almost effortless.
And that kind of brings up an interesting question for you, the listener, doesn't it? How could you maybe incorporate similar, gentle, consistent listening into your own learning journey? Doesn't have to be language, could be any subject. Sometimes, it seems, the most effective learning really does happen in those quieter, lower pressure moments. Just letting things soak in.
Exactly. A really good point. And if this deep dive has helped you see the value in this kind of learning approach, well, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like this content. Maybe share it with someone else you think might benefit. And of course, subscribe to our channel for more insights like this. We're here every week, ready to dive deep into whatever interesting sources you send our way, always aiming to help you become just that little bit more informed. So until next time, take care of yourself, maybe drink something warm, and remember, you're probably doing better than you think.